Three, two, one. What's going on, folks? Welcome to 34 Questions. I'm your host, 34, and tonight I have a very special guest. Mr. Arthur Soriano is in the building. How you doing, sir?
Good. How about yourself, 34?
I'm doing great. It's pretty much Friday. I don't know how it feels like it for you right now, but super excited. It's the end of the week.
I can't wait for the weekend. I've got some plans, so yeah, it's I've got some family stuff going on this weekend, so I'm looking forward. But before that, I've got 34 questions with you, maybe more.
No doubt. I want to thank you again for making time to come onto the show. You stopped by a long time ago, but things happened, some technical difficulties. I'm just happy to have you back on. So thank you. And I want to just do a quick rundown for all the folks out there who probably haven't seen the show before, but we do some intro questions, some warm-up questions just to set the tone, and then we head over to the wheel of questions where we give it a spin, and wherever it lands, you pretty much are going to be presented with a question that's reflective and introspective. And then after the wheel of questions, I would just have a few concluding questions for you at the end. Sound good to you, Arthur?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, my very first question for you is, how have you been? It's been a few months since we've connected. In between then and now, any new things come up for you? Any highlights?
Well, I've been pretty good. I don't have anything to complain about really, but more recently I've had a little bit of allergy, sore throat thing, so I'm a little bit hoarse. I don't know if you can tell. My daughter says that it's barely noticeable, so I'll just go with that. But it makes it more difficult for me to talk, so that might be to your advantage this time, because last time I spoke a lot.
Yeah, and it is welcome. And I think your daughter's right. I can't really tell either. So maybe it's just from your point of view that it just feels weird, right?
Yeah, it's just one of those things. You've got a little bit of a something throat, and so it's just not average, that's all.
I gotcha. Well, moving on to the warm-up. My first question for you in the warm-up is, what would you like the audience to know about you?
Well, I'm just an average guy that fell into the habit of, or the hobby of pre-colonial Filipino history. And when I read what was available versus the science that was coming out, I said to myself, someone needs to write an update to this, because the story of Filipinos or Austronesians is so exciting and so dynamic that we need to retell the story, because the story has been told so poorly.
For sure. I think that's some important work that you're doing, because I think there's a lot of things in history that could use an update, or since I think there's different powers that kind of they shape the history that we know now, so the research needs to be done, and I'm happy we have people like you out there who are letting us know this new information, or not new information, but just information that hasn't been available in the past, just to help us really do understand where we come from, because I don't know about everybody else, but I feel like in my generation we're more aware of how history is one-sided, or is told by one side, and
right.
It's time to kind of deep digger.
Right.
Dig deeper.
Right. Well, excuse me. I think the most important thing that has come out, one of the most popular pre-colonial historians, William Henry Scott, he passed away in the 90s, I believe. He doesn't have the advantage that I have today. He didn't have the internet for the most part. He had it, but maybe it wasn't as well put together as today. Not sure which year he passed away. I think it was 94. I'll have to Google that or something, or let's say DuckDuckGo. I don't like Google, but I need to look that up. But I know that he passed away, and he doesn't have a lot of the information that we have today. And what's really exciting more recently is, number one, we've got vast genetic testing that allowed us to discover that the Igorot tribes are essentially the base tribe that spread out from Luzon, Philippines, all the way to Madagascar on one side of the world and Easter Island on the other side of the world. And we wouldn't know that. We sort of know it through language, but we wouldn't know it as profoundly as we do today without genetics. And with everybody taking these genetics tests, it just keeps on increasing the database. So that's one really big thing. Another big discovery, of course, is all of the findings that they've had in Luzon with the discovery of early Filipino man from. I guess they didn't find the actual man, but they have butchered rhino bones or fossils that show that man has been, and this is archaic man, not necessarily Homo sapiens, but archaic man has been on the Philippines or Luzon for over 709,000 years. People in the books that I've read, since I started this, I originally was thinking, Filipinos came, somebody came to Luzon 5,000 years ago on a migration thing. And then when you study science, you find out, no, there's been someone on Luzon for over 700,000 years. And there's a Homo luzonensis, I think that's how you pronounce it. But that's another archaic Filipino or human that is named after the island Luzon. And they have been there, I'd have to check the numbers, but let's say between 40 and 60,000 years. So, and I don't have these things memorized. I have to look at my notes to give you exact. So I'm trying to be, without having notes by me, I'm trying to answer all the questions.
No, for sure. I appreciate that. I am curious, have you taken one of those genetics tests or, just to find out how much percentage you are of what?
Actually, my family has taken the test. So, my sister and I came out 100% Filipino/Austronesian. So that is actually a little bit of a surprise. Because my mom is, I'll toot her horn a little. Maybe I'm tooting my own horn. But my mom is a beautiful Miss Philippines type woman when she was younger. She's an older woman now. But when she was young, she was very, very model-esque. And, she had lighter skin. And so the rumor in the family is that we had Spanish blood or something. You know how Filipinos are. Yeah, my last name is Spanish, so I must be, Hispanic, even though we all had to have Spanish names at one time because we used to have names like Lapu Lapu, we didn't have Lapu Lapu Garcia. It was just Lapu Lapu. So, we thought we had some Spanish blood in there because she had such light skin. She was fair skinned. And, my dad, being from Pangasinan, he was, Pangasinan was how would you say? We had a lot of migration from China and Japan in that area because the port of Pangasinan one time was called the Port of Japan. Of course, that was during Spanish times, but still. With so many Japanese migrants to that area, we thought, there's a chance that we have Japanese blood. But when the test was done, 100% Filipino, so at first it was like, man, we got nothing.
Yeah, I,
You know, I was
I,
thinking.
go ahead.
Go
Man.
ahead. I was thinking, man, all the thoughts and things, we're just completely off. But I'm proud of my heritage, and whether you have 100% Filipino or even 1% Filipino, my goal is to share the truth of our history, to let you be proud of your 100% or your 1%, and just tell a better, complete story. That's the whole reason I do this is because the story is so important, and being a fan of history, not all history, but more ancient history. I studied the Greeks and the Romans when I was in college, and that wasn't my major, but I did study quite a bit. I guess I had enough to minor. But when you study history and you find out when you read your own history, Filipino history, that it says something about the dinosaurs, then all of a sudden, and Magellan came. It's like, what? It's like, this is not the story I want to hear. So I said, someone has to update this. And my project allows me to update it within my budget, and in a way that, people said, David, you should write a book, like a academic book. And I thought about that. And then I said, if I write this book, you guys should already know this, but you don't. And it's because you all aren't reading the books. Not that a really good book exists, because I don't think any really good book, in my opinion, exists. So I decided to do it graphically. That way, it's interesting. I mean, the kids need to know this. I would have loved to have known this stuff when I was, 5-10 years old. So the kids need to know this history so that they can be proud of who they are, where they're from. And, it's a really nice story. And I think, I don't even remember what you said originally, but I love telling, a little bit about my interest in pre-colonial Filipino history.
Do you think at this point that we'll be able to kind of provide all views of history for the future? Like, I know you're doing the research of the history from the past, but as we are currently, creating our events right now for the future, you think that story won't be as one-sided as our understanding of history is now? Or is there always going to be somebody that's kind of, guiding what we know to the future? Yeah.
Especially now. I'll bet you back in the day, even today, I bet that it's always been pretty one-sided. And whoever has control of the pen is telling the story. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. And hopefully you can find an opposing side. But, when I look at the way things are now, even when we get our own news today, you can't say that that's fact. You see the news and then you find out, okay, well, who's funding this news? who's saying this, and what's their alternative? So, I don't know. I think you'll have more resources to research the truth, but everything is so biased, and I think things have been promoted in a way to manipulate the situation more than we realize. When you look at it today and you can see it and prove it, you can't prove it in the old days. But when you see it today, you have to think to yourself, that's what they were doing back then too. I mean, people are people. So I'm sure that we have biased history. But the thing is, some of the most exciting things in Filipino history, one of the big reasons I feel like we need the update is the science. The science has changed a lot.
And it's going to continue to change. I feel like every 10 years there's some breakthrough that helps us understand a little bit more, right? Yes. So who knows what we'll know in 10 years from now. Yeah. Second question for you in the warm up is, if someone were to pay you a tribute, how would you like to be honored? So, if I was going to do something in honor of Arthur, what kind of act could I do for you?
Well, I try not to have personal glorification. I don't really thrive on fame. I don't mind Arthur Soriano, the name, being popular, but like we had discussed earlier on, there was a time, people, that I decided, I wasn't going to do the interview visually. I was just going to answer the questions behind the screen, but I said, if the project takes off the way that I think it will, people are going to want to see who I am. So I'll go ahead and promote the mission. But any honor for me is not necessary. If the way to honor me is to buy the product, and in turn, I can create more product, because the reason that we have an issue number 1, and the reason that I did a periodical comic book format, is because it was affordable to do at first. It's visual, so you can have both story and pictures. But I have a copy here, so I'll show you like some of the first pages. So you've got a nice big page of pictures. Let's see if I get it. But look at all that verbiage there. There's a lot of writing, at least on that page. So, I set this up in a format that if it gets supported, I can give you more. And if it's not supported, then, I'll probably still go forward, but it would be a lot more fun if it had more support. Not that you all haven't supported me. And let me make this announcement now. I'm sorry. I'm going to go more than the question.
Go for it.
But I was invited to a anniversary party of a restaurant in Houston, Texas. And because it was close and I was available, I went ahead and did, I think they called it a Filipino market. So it was an anniversary party for a restaurant. It was nice weather and happened, I think, in May. And we had about 100, maybe more, about 100 guests or participants, not participants, but people that showed up. There were about 5 vendors. I was one of the vendors. And we ended up selling over $400 worth of merchandise and comic books. And, the comic book, American money is $5, $4.99. So, to sell $400 worth of merchandise in 2 hours of time with 100 people, I'm just saying to myself, it's pretty well liked if people see it. And if I were to get to one of these bigger Filipino American or what have you festivals with thousands of people, I believe our numbers would be really strong. So if anybody has a festival out there in the continental United States or maybe even Canada, I'm game for showing up and signing comic books and teaching history if possible. So as far as the honor to me, personally, I don't really need any. I'm just a messenger. So I'm doing the homework, but it's for everyone. It's for our people. And so if you could support the program, buy the comic. My goal is also to help kids in the Philippines. So the money is supposed to go to help kids once we make some money. I haven't made any money yet. So I printed a lot of product because I believe in it. And I wanted to get things so that if we do sell it, that it's profitable. So I wasn't looking small time. I was looking to where if it's gonna do it, then I might as make it might as well purchase it in amounts that make it worthwhile. Because let's say if I only printed a few comic books and they cost me $4 a piece and I sold them for $4.99, I mean, why even do it, right? So I purchased thousands of these things.
I got you.
So, I believe that we'll do pretty well. We sold over $400 worth of merchandise at an average price of about a little over $500, but it was mostly comic books. During the pandemic, our retailers were closed, so they were open, then they were closed, and then no one was really shopping. And the economy is depressed because of the pandemic. And so it wasn't until recently that we felt we could print the product, issue number 1, distribute it to our retailers in the Philippines, and actually have people come by the stores to buy it. I can't give a shout out yet because I don't know my team in the Philippines. Although they know where the product is going, I don't know where the product is going. But the thing is we'll announce all at once it's actually produced. But issue number 1 in the Philippines should be completed within 3 weeks. And so when it's completed, we'll be able to distribute in the Philippines. Now, the nice thing about the Filipino version is the fight scene, not the fight scene. Yeah, the fight scene. The Urduha fight scene where she's charging on the horses. There is a centerfold pullout in the Philippine version. So that's what you get for the same money in the Philippines, is you get an extra 4 pages. It's actually 2 pages of print. But when you pull out a centerfold, it's actually 4 pages. But you get a pull-out poster of that scene, which isn't available in the U.S. version. So we were able to do that because it was affordable in the Philippines, but in the U.S. it wasn't. It wasn't affordable to do it within the price points available.
I gotcha. Is it going to be in English or which dialect?
It will be in English. Let me tell you a little bit of the reason why I did that. A lot of people push for Tagalog because, over here in the States, everybody is very pro Tagalog as far as speak. If you're Filipino, why don't you speak Tagalog, right? But then, I grew up, my family spoke Ilocano and Pangalatok. So, I was already left out in the cold, the thing is there are so many Filipinos per se across the world that don't speak Tagalog. And then if you're in school, you learn English. And I know that there's a little bit of, how would you say, there's that contingent of people that want it to be in Tagalog. But then there's also those people that say, no, it should be in Ilocano. No, it should be in Visayan, or Cebuano. But, I think as far as literature is concerned, the Boxer Codex sells best when it's in English. So for the sheer purpose of reaching a larger audience with the economics that we have, like I said, I bought thousands of these things. A lot of them are still sitting upstairs. So, the thing is it made sense economics wise to print it in English, and that way we don't have the people, the Ilocanos and the Visayans rejecting it because it's in Tagalog, and then vice versa. So it's my decision. If it's a bad decision, then hey, it's my fault. But it's just easier that way because I already did the first issue in English.
I feel you. That is a question I wanted to ask because I had come across a Filipino children's book, and they had all 4 different dialects. It was Tagalog, Ilocano, Visayan, and there was a 4th one, but it was all printed in the same book. It was just interesting. I was like, dang, I know that's hard, right? It's not good for the economics to include everything.
I would fit that in mind, but
Yeah.
Especially with that one page, the whole page is it's smaller than a printed book, and they convinced me to do that. I don't know if I'm going to do that again, but they convinced me the first time to make print that small. But I don't think they'll be able to convince me the next time around, because I had some people, even though the feedback might be smaller than I think, you sort of want to. I knew that would happen, and when it happened, I said, "Yeah, we probably should have made the print bigger." So we'll try to make the print bigger next time around. Oh, so I did tell you that we're printing issue number 1 in the Philippines, and by golly, I try not to say anything. I don't like profanity. It's just my traditional upbringing, but. I picked up these really what do you call it? Old style TV shows that I used to watch, Andy Griffith or something like that. But you pick up by golly because you don't want to say what you might say if you weren't on 34 questions. So
I got you.
So the thing is we've got the Filipino print coming out, but the other reason why I was so slammed in June is because we're basically finished issue number 2. We're just tweaking it. So I had to get all the writing and we have literature in issue number 2, and we also have history. So I think I explained this to you before, but not to our audience. McCarlincan Chronicles, issue number 1, was all history, oral history, and scientific discovery. Issue number 2 is the same, except we're taking a popular character from issue number 1, and we're having her sort of battle mythological stories and creatures, per se. Because, for instance, a popular one, a siren or a mermaid is not considered history, but it's part of our history because she's in our stories, right? Because she's in our mythology. So how do you have a mermaid or siren in your history? How do you introduce that? And the way to do that is to have a character go through and have adventures with all the different mythological creatures, or I don't know if creatures are that might not be the right word to choose, but let's say mythological characters, So now you can have a common character, so you can develop a bond with the character, go through all the mythology, and it won't be necessarily always accurate with traditional stories, but it gives you a introduction to them and maybe another angle. So the first part of issue number 2 will be all history, but the second part will be fiction.
Gotcha, but just incorporating those characters.
Right.
Yeah.
You could have like an aswang, you could have a mermaid or siren, you could have all the different, if you're familiar with Filipino mythology, folklore, there's a lot of tall tales. And so, it's just another way to introduce those we have our own, group of gods, if you want to say that, or creatures and dragons and all that kind of stuff. So, we've got a rich folklore to tell, or mythology, and I think I'm going to introduce that in this issue. But we're definitely going to. Now we haven't decided yet. I actually said, hey, we should make the mythology where it's upside down, so that if you come to the front of the comic and you're reading it, this is history, and then when you get to the mythology, then it's upside down, so you have to turn it around and you could start from the front that way. I've actually proposed that, but they're thinking that they're just going to have a cover within the book, and then that will be the mythology and fiction.
Is it more economically friendly that way? Because I know what you're talking about, and I do like it when comic books do that, where there's 2 stories and you have to.
I don't know. I don't think it makes a difference to the printer, so it might be the artist. But I don't want to be so crazy like some of the. I mean, at times you have to be, but I think my team's really good, so I'm going to probably go with what they say works best. But I'm definitely going to ask them to do it again, just to see if they take it.
I gotcha.
I do want people to realize when we switch over from history to mythology, because that would be bad if they thought, oh, this is history. I was like, no, that's not history. That's a story. But, and the reason that I'm doing that is, even though I can write a lot of interesting history, at some point the history becomes less exciting and less abundant. So if I do everything based on history, Harlequin Chronicles has a finite life. And so I'm trying to develop some characters and some, for instance, like Superman. Superman's, the original creator's long gone, but Superman continues on because, he's a character that just kept on going. So you can continue the story after I'm gone, however you want. But I think, I'd love to have, when I was a kid, I'd love to have a strong Filipino-based character or whatever, like so many other nationalities have. The Greeks have their pantheon of gods, and same thing with the Romans. And then later on, I found out the Vikings had, their own gods. But, we've been traveling around on boats longer than the Vikings. They weren't even, we've been doing it for thousands upon thousands of years before the Vikings ever started. So, that's one interesting thing that we should be promoting among our own stories.
For sure. I was gonna ask if you had seen Tresse, the show on Netflix, or
I haven't, but tell me.
Oh, it's about this. I haven't seen.
You mean Tresse? Oh, I thought you said something with a CH. You the TRESE.
Yeah, Tresse. Yeah.
I've seen a lot. But I haven't seen a complete episode. I'm sort of seeing it on the side because there's a lot of write-ups. I've seen, how would you say, maybe previews. But because I'm so involved in my own project, I haven't really studied it. But I was happy to see, and I'm gonna do this from a Filipino point of view. I was happy to see that they made her look like a white girl, because my characters are more or darker skinned. Not that everyone's darker skinned, but someone has to promote our brown beauty, and so that's what I'm doing.
I got you, and I think they're more supernatural, or the supernatural figures of the Filipino culture. And you're doing history, so it is two different lanes. But yeah, I see what you mean. I haven't watched it myself all the way through. I feel kind of bad saying that, but like being a creator yourself, right? Sometimes you're just more engulfed in your own work to take time to check everything out.
I'm interested. Believe me, I'm interested. But when I saw it and I saw what I saw, I said, this is nowhere close to what I'm doing. And so I said, although I'm interested, I was more concerned that it was going to be too close to what I'm doing. And although I think a lot of our community will support it and are excited by it, I think also because I get my own feedback, a lot of our community is not really happy with, and even though, my Urduha is a beautiful Filipina that could be mistaken for any Southeast Asian beauty queen, whatever look that is. I like my mom. She's light skinned, but she's very beautiful, and so we have beautiful women no matter what. Whether you have a flat nose or you have a more pointed nose, or your eyes were more round or your eyes were more narrow, for lack of better words. We've always had beautiful women. And so I didn't want to make her, because I've been, how would you say? I've been asked or told, not necessarily told. I can't think of the right word, but there was that group of people that said, hey, she needs to have a flat nose and she needs to be less beautiful. I'm going, no, not that flat noses aren't beautiful, but let's just put it this way. Batuta described her as exceedingly beautiful, and he's, I guess, from the Middle Eastern area. So, he described her as exceedingly beautiful. So why not take the opportunity to market your product with an extremely beautiful Filipina hero? And so that's what we did. I mean, it is a comic book. I mean, if you look at every other comic book female character out there, they're extremely attractive. And so, you know, we sort of followed along with that. You know, we're gonna make her extremely attractive, and the history books say she was extremely attractive. So why not?
I feel that.
You know.
I wanted to ask, how do you take in feedback? Like, I know for myself, when people try to give me tips or things to think about for the podcast, I'm always, I try to keep an open mind, but
Right.
there's also a vision I have for it. So, yeah, sometimes I feel bad not taking it in how people want, but I also know that I have a vision for it. How about for yourself with a?
Yeah, you know, it's really difficult because you know you just listen, because you have to listen, but then you also have to be true to yourself. You know, you had a vision originally, and if it's not your own, now sometimes you can be influenced, and that's good. Sometimes you'll say, oh wow, that's great, I love it. But if you don't necessarily love it, then it's not you anymore. And so you want to make as many people happy as you can, but if you don't like the end product, you're not going to want to push it. So I just say keep an open ear. And then, of course, the other thing that I'm very open to is um, any truth that people can give me. If they say that, that I might be off a little bit here or there with some history or some culture, then, you know, the thing about Filipino history is we only have our books and our oral history. And one of the things about oral history is there's probably about 100 times more than has been published. The elders of all the different tribes, they haven't told us all their stories. They haven't written it down. So, if any of them want to come up and if they say, hey, Arthur, can you promote, this story that we're willing to share with you? I'd be more than happy to.
I got
So
you. Yeah.
is that going to be an easy fix, or should I repeat what I said?
Easy fix. No worries.
Okay.
I got you. Well, just a heads up, Arthur, we have about 15 minutes left in the podcast. I know we got wrapped up in the warm-up questions, but don't worry. This is how it goes sometimes. I got one more question for you in the warm-up, and it is, on a scale from 1 to 10, how well do you know yourself?
I'll say I know myself a lot better than I knew myself 20 years ago. So I'll say a 10. I know myself really well because I've had to deal with myself and all my mess ups. So I think it just comes from messing up. But of course, when I'm 100, I'm going to say I didn't know myself back then.
Yeah.
I think I know myself pretty well. I know my strengths, my weaknesses. I know what I like. I know what I don't like. And so I'm on the verge of being the cranky old guy, because I know what I like and what I don't like. And, I'm pretty quick to reject some things that I don't like pretty vocally or quickly.
I gotcha. What would you say is your favorite thing about your personality?
To others or to myself?
For yourself.
I like that I believe in myself. It allows me to go forward without fear. I think a lot of people hold themselves back because they don't have confidence in what they do. I play tennis, so one of the things that's really important in tennis to win is just belief. You don't in tennis, you don't have to be the most skilled player to win the match. There's many times when people of less skill beat the player better. It's crazy, but it happens all the time. Because all it takes is a little bit of luck. It takes will, and it takes just moving forward and just executing your plan. So you don't have to have the best plan or the most fancy plan to win. You just have to believe that you can win. And so I think I learned that trait from tennis, because I've been in positions where someone like really killed me in the first set, and it was as if there's no way I could beat this guy. But then I figured out a way just to return his serve high and deep. And then I figured out, oh, well, he makes mistakes when I do this. So I said, okay, I'm going to keep on giving him this. And then, you sort of figure out people's rhythms and what they like. So you don't give them what they like. And then things turn around and I end up winning the match when I thought at one time I was going to get killed. So, you sort of have to believe that you can win in order to win. And I think a lot of people, they just don't believe. And so that's why it's important to, bringing that back to our history, it's important to have pride in where you come from. Because I think deep down inside, if you don't know the truth and you don't have any pride in where you come from, there's a part of you that's missing and not as strong as it should be. And, the Filipino people, the Austronesian people, they need to know that they traveled the seas before anyone else, that we were going, from east to west, all the way over to almost Africa. And we did go, it's proven that we did go into South America. And so we need to know that we did these great things and that we were a great people before someone with a better weapon, took over. You got the biggest bomb, the biggest gun, you're going to win. That's just the way life is. But Austronesians, Filipinos, people from Luzon, they have their genes all across the islands. And they did that because they were great people.
For sure. I'm looking forward to learning much more through your works and, just the information out there available that you've been putting out. We're heading over to the question portion, the main portion of 34 questions. I think we got time for one number. Would you like to go to the wheel, or do you have a number in mind? Maybe a lucky number, or how do you feel?
I think it would be less exciting for the audience if they didn't get to see that wheel turn. So let it turn and let it see where it falls.
All right, here we go. Heading over to the wheel, and let's give it a spin. There will be noise on the final product.
And everything's blurry right now, but I know you said that
in the final
blurry.
Yeah, and so it landed on a shout out. So it's actually not a number. This is pretty funny. It's the first time it landed on one of the other options. I know that there's a lot of stuff that you don't really want to divulge out there. And you don't have to name drop any names, but the question for you was going to be, did you ever have a favorite teacher, coach, or mentor?
Yes. I had a favorite high school teacher, and I actually had him for 2 classes. And he sort of set me on a path that I might not have gone on if it wasn't for him. And I don't even know if he's around because, the way high schools are nowadays, everything's on lockdown. And when I was a kid in high school, I remember former students visiting him during class hours. Like they would just come up. Things were just more open back then. There weren't any school shootings. So Mr. Adams, my history and economics teacher in high school, I'd give him a shout out because, I was set to do the traditional thing like my sister. My sister, she ended up being a doctor, Filipino medicine doctor, nurse. That's what our parents tell us to be, right? Well, I was headed to be a dentist or optometrist, and in his economics class, he said, what do you want to do in the future? And I said, well, I think I'll be an optometrist or a dentist. And he said, do you really want to do that? Is that your passion? And I said, it's a business and it makes good money and it's safe. And then he said, you should probably just go into business because that's what you really want to do, right? You're only picking, dentistry because it's a safe business, but it's not really what you wanted to do. Now, my parents would disagree because, I went through hell with all my first go round of businesses. I would say that I wasn't successful for many years. That I made ends meet, and I had fun doing it. I would say there's many people that thought in those days that, hey, you're not really using your degree, you're not really doing this, you're not, all the naysayers. And so I think, going your own way and doing something that you're passionate about is very important, and I hope more people can do that rather than just do the safe road. Everybody deserves a chance to go for it. In your 20s, I guess, is a good time. Mine happened into my 30s, but the thing is, if you can plan a good road and have a good backup. I always had the backup. I left the professional world at the age of 24 and started working for myself, at 24. Graduated 21 college. But I never went back. I mean, I've had corporate alliances, but I was still getting, a 1099 from them. So I was commission based. I didn't work for them. I wasn't their employee. So a shout out to Mr. Adams for, my parents would probably kill him if they knew. Even today. But, I'd say I was an underachiever for a long time. But I was happy, I was happy. Not necessarily bringing in all the money, but what I always had and what I feel is most important, and one of the reasons why I love the Philippines is I believe that wealth is free time, and that's why I want to have my free time back home. So I'm planning a route to be back home in the Philippines in hopefully the more near future. But I still have a lot of my family in the Philippines, so it's still going to be a, how would you say, multi-generational home or commune in essence. I expect that my wife's parents are to live with us because I want to take care of them just like I want to take care of my own parents. But I'll have my foot in the U.S. and the Philippines. I'm not going to completely leave one or the other, but I'm hoping that everything works out for me to be able to do that. But the great thing is, in the Philippines, if you retire there versus here, I could live a great life just selling my house here and living over there.
Yeah. That's true. I think that's the hope for a lot of immigrants, right? They come over here and hopefully retire and be able to bring all the money they earn, their savings, and stretch it out in the Philippines. I know it's a similar dream for my folks, and I'm hoping I can help them achieve that someday. But yeah, shout out Mr. Adams.
Shout out to Mr. Adams because he's the one that told me not to go to dentistry school and to study economics and finance. So that's what I did, and if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't have done that.
For sure.
I've been a doctor like my sister. She's a doctor, and I could have gone the same way. I was headed that way, And 2 years before I went, my junior year, he pulled me to the side and he said, "Are you really going to dentistry school?" And he said, because at the time I had a lozenge and I just bit into it.
You're fine.
I was competing for my school in economics. And he said, "Are you really? Our economics guy is going to be a dentist?" I said, "It's like a football player, right? Like a football player. Are you really going to dentistry school? You're not going to go to play football for Alabama?" I was like, no. It's a good business. I'm just going to be a dentist. So I ended up studying economics because of him. He gave me that extra push I needed to go after the studies that I really loved instead of the plan that mom and dad had for me.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, you showed some promise, and shout out to him for seeing that and just knowing that, like, I don't think this kid's gonna want to do dentistry his whole life. He's gonna find a point in his life where he's like, this doesn't fit for him. So, he stepped in and just gave you a little bit of insight, coming from someone more experienced.
The other thing was, I had braces when I was a kid, and I remember that the dentist had to pull out those molars back there, and I remember that crunching sound, and so that was the one part I wasn't liking about dentistry. Like, I don't want to have to pull. I'll do everything but pull out the teeth. Let's do that. But so I guess deep down inside I didn't want to do it, but I thought, when you're a kid, you have ideas of what you think is safe, and so your parents can help mold that. That's why they always try to push us into nursing or engineering or something like that. But I just went with what I was good at. I was already competing in school in economics for my school, so it made more sense for me to study economics.
For sure. All right.
You have time. I have time for another question. It's up to you.
Well, I do have the closeout questions we have to get to. So, we made it to the final stretch of the program. Before we get to the closeout questions, I do have this new thing as well called the mantra, the 34th mantra. Are you familiar with mantras?
A little bit.
Okay. Well, on the show, I have 3 phrases that I would like you to fill out for yourself. It is I am, I can, I will. So I am blank, I can blank, I will blank. How would you fill that out for yourself?
And almost everyone on the show now answers that question?
Almost everyone on the show answers it.
Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I'm trying to approach it like a chess player, but I'm really just off the cuff. So I'm not, I don't want to think that much. So
Let it flow. Let it flow.
Yeah, let it flow. I am Filipino. What's the next one? I can.
I can
write a better story. And what's the last one? I will.
Yeah.
And I will provide something that our people will be proud of.
Thank you for creating your mantra. And now if you ever need a reminder, you have the soundbite of yourself, just reminding you.
134, thank you so much for, inviting me. And I need to spend more time looking at your videos, but I know what the reasons why you started it. And, although we didn't go over that today, I know from previous conversations. So I think it's a really great thing what you're doing here, and I'm just happy to be a part of it.
Thank you for the kind words, and I'm very happy to have you on. Each person that comes on helps me build this thing to be bigger than all of us combined. So I definitely appreciate you coming on. Don't go yet. Got a couple more questions for you. And this next one is from my previous guest. Shout out to Han. His question for you is, what what is your take on how society should be shaped in the future? Like, what do you think isn't a standard yet, but should be a standard down the line?
Good question. And I have a philosophy being an economics student. Well, when you study economics, you learn that human nature is a very, very difficult thing to beat. Economics is basically the study of human nature. For instance, if the price is high, less people are going to purchase it. If the price is low, more people are going to purchase it. So it does study human nature in almost every aspect of it. So with that being said, also in economics, we know that government is the least efficient thing to do anything. That's why, if you've ever spent any time in a post office, the post office has a long line out the door, yet it doesn't give you a great service. I mean, it gives you an expensive service, but it doesn't give you great service, and it also is operating in the red. It doesn't make any money. How can you have all those customers and you don't make any money? Well, it's government. And so I don't look to government for all the answers. I look to government for providing law and order. I look to government for providing infrastructure. But I think everybody's been barking up the wrong tree when they think that government is going to provide the future that they want, because from my studies, government studies in economics, government is inefficient. And it's inefficient because of human nature. So what I think people can do differently now versus in the future, and there's a few companies that are doing it. You've got companies like Tom's, for every shoe that you buy, they give how many shoes to the poor. You've got companies like Patagonia. I have only heard about them. I don't read exactly what they do, but they do something to the effect that they're giving a lot of their monies to help the rainforest situation in Brazil or something like that. And then I've heard of other companies where the owner, he figured out that people could have, where he lived, a satisfactory life if they just made, $75,000 a year. And so, in his world, all his employees make $75,000, whether you're, the receptionist or vice president or something. Maybe there's some incentive somewhere, because I don't see people being really happy if they're not getting some incentive for something. So, but that's what I heard was their base salary. So I think if we're going to change the world, maybe we can change it another way. We need to look at more ideas, because, we've had kings, some were good, some were bad. Usually it's the good king and then his son messes it all up. And then, because, you've got a kid that never really had to work for anything, and then he's the one that's going to run us, afterwards. And then you've got, all the governments with all their different systems. But in the end, government's just inefficient, like I said, with the postal service. I can't stress that enough. With what I studied in school, I would never have government be the solution. So I think, although I don't have all the answers, but I think someone with a good heart that has an awesome business has the ability to change the world. I don't know if they will. For instance, Jeff Bezos. If Jeff Bezos would be happy with, $250,000 a year and giving at least, what he could do? If just Jeff Bezos just created all these hospitals for people to get their basic needs, and he could do it. If he just provided healthcare. I mean, maybe we have to have a limit so we don't overdo it, because I also know from economics that if you get anything free, that you're going to abuse it. Just sort of like that Panera Bread study where people were getting food at a price that they felt was fair. So, for instance, if you were wealthy and you went to this old Panera Bread business, this was a science project. The wealthy people were supposed to pay, the suggested price, and the poor people were supposed to not have to pay or just pay what they felt was fair. And the average road people were supposed to pay somewhere in the middle. And all those businesses, all those special project Panera Breads, they all went out of business because human nature says that people will try to get the most for the least. And so human nature screws that up every time. But if one person like Jeff could, provide healthcare for, if his businesses could be focused on providing healthcare, not necessarily, doing any government or political thing, he could change the world. One really rich person could change the world if they wanted to.
Yeah.
The area that they should do it is probably healthcare, not education, because even with education, you've got all the politics going with that as we see today. We've got them trying to switch them one way or the other. And, although education has always been a good focus most of my life, I don't know if that's really what, I think people just need food and health. So if we can keep people healthy and get them food, then that's enough. So I think we need to look at different angles, because I think we've been, and governments, to keep their edge, they'll go to war and kill us all. So I think now that we have the internet, I think we know that all these different nationalities, if we could get together, we don't hate each other. We don't want to go to war. Who wants to go to war with somebody? Nobody. Only crazy people want that. The average person, we want to be with our family. We want to eat. We want to laugh. If we could have food and healthcare, I think that's what the good rich person should do. They should help us get to that point where there's going to be business to create all these different medical things, but someone with that much money could change the world if he set up hospitals that paid for all that stuff. I mean, and it doesn't even have to be for everyone. Like, maybe not everyone gets it because maybe it wouldn't work economically, but if we had, let's just say, the top 25 cities in the US, and you could start with America. Although I would suggest doing it in poor countries, but let's just say that because his base is America, that he did it in America. Top 25 cities each had a Jeff Bezos. You can even name it yourself. It could be after you, the Bezos Hospital. and then you would go, and the regular checkup stuff should be free, and the emergency stuff should be free, and then everything else should be whatever you can afford, and it would be subsidized by Amazon, and then more people would buy Amazon stuff.
Yeah.
It could happen.
You just gave him some free advice right there. Now it's in the universe.
The thing is, at some point, I applaud him for having a good plan and a good vision and making good business. But after so much, it's mostly, not to be negative, it's mostly, what do you need it for? That's what I'm saying for me. If I ever ran into that kind of money, that's what I would do. I would try to open up healthcare and food facilities. Maybe a little bit of education too, but I find that education also gets very political. So I've sort of moved more towards medicine and food, because politics is so ugly.
Yeah, man, I hear you.
I know both sides really mean to do good. I think anyone that thinks one side is evil, that's not really thinking well. I think both sides mean well, but it's just like anything, you know, brother and sister, cousins. How can you get everyone to agree? You know, consensus. That's impossible to get everyone to agree. So, you know, why mess with the political stuff? Just give people their food and give people their health care, and that's all you can hope for. I think that should be our goal. Get people food, get people health care.
I got you.
And do it through business. Oh, and that's what I was saying. I don't know if I explained it well, but Jeff Bezos could do it, but businesses could be set up in a way where, for instance, Girl Scout cookies. You know that when you buy Girl Scout cookies, you buy it because you're benefiting the Girl Scouts. The cookies are pretty good, but the reason you're buying those Girl Scout cookies is you're buying it to benefit the girls. Now, what if we took something else, like this car? You buy this car, and this car is benefiting this hospital. It could be that direct. And so different products, different businesses should be like Tom's, should be like Patagonia and other things. They should be their own cause. And you're getting something in return. You're not just giving money, you know, blindly to these people for that, you know, 15 cents out of the dollar goes towards. So I think a business approach is the next wave of the future. I don't know if it's, you know, 200 years down the road, somebody tried it and they said, "Oh, that's a stupid idea. We tried that." And then, you know, the thing is, if we keep on doing the same thing, then we're insane, right? So we got to try some new ideas.
For sure. My second to last question for you is, what would you like to ask the next guest that comes on to 34 questions?
What would I like? Is 34 questions, it doesn't necessarily have to be Filipino based, does it?
Not necessarily. And yeah, it could be heavy or light, all up to you.
Okay, my next question for the next guest is, if you have thought about what you can do for your fellow man, what would you do? And if you haven't thought about it, tell us when you'll start thinking about it.
I got you.
Because, you know, not everybody's at that point where they're thinking about others. You know, there's people that are struggling out there, or people that are so ingrained in their project that they haven't had time to reflect on what they can do for, you know, a guy down the street or people back home, wherever they come from. So, you know, I if I don't ask them or you don't ask them, who will, right? So, you know, we always got to keep that. You know, it's not always the right time for somebody to think about that project. But I think if we all had that question posed to us at some point in our life, and we could answer it, and we could make a better world if we all tried to do something for somebody else rather than for ourselves. And so, you know, like I said, I'm making my money with the business that I've always done. But this project is for my people, not only for the truth of their history, the pride of their history, but also if I'm able, if it takes off, I'd like it to benefit the way that I said Jeff Bezos could benefit. I'd like to provide healthcare and educational opportunities for kids in the Philippines. Because, you know, my dad used to be one of those kids that had a bowl of rice for lunch and nothing else, you know, just rice. Mm-hmm. So I know that that's still common in the Philippines. So I would like to help someone like my dad there.
Sure, for sure. And my last question for you, the question that ties everything together, is 500 years from now, our descendants are watching this video. What would you like to tell them?
500 years from now? That's a good question. Well, see, they would already know the answer to most of what I'm thinking. So what would I ask them?
Oh, it's well, yeah. If you had something to ask them, anything you wanted to, a message
That's,
for them.
that is a that is a good question. Maybe, the thing is what can't we know now? What we can't know is in the future, so they would already know it. So maybe we go back to the past. What is something that's mysterious that we don't know about? Oh, I'll ask him this because it's sort of mixed in with our own quote unquote folklore in essence. There are those who believe that the Garden of Eden was in the Philippines. So I'm not saying that it was. But my question for them is, have they figured out where the Garden of Eden was? That would be my question for them. Because, the Garden of Eden had everything that you needed. It had fruit and vegetables growing from trees and plants from the ground, and all the animal life. I guess they didn't eat animals back then, but yeah. So everything grew from a tree or a vine, and so we have that in the Philippines. So that's a possibility. But if they figure out where the Garden of Eden was, that would be neat. And when you read Filipino folklore and you read other people's history, there were similarities with some of those histories where there could have possibly been a Garden of Eden in other cultures. So yeah, where was the Garden of Eden? I can't think of anything else, but if they can figure out, if they figured out how to stop cancer, maybe it was inflammation. They say that everything starts with inflammation. I don't know, but I say go back to the past. Where was the Garden of Eden, or what was Stonehenge, made for, or something? I don't know. Something like that.
Yeah.
Or was it? Oh no, here's a good one. Where are all these unidentified flying objects coming from?
Hopefully in 500 years we know, but it could still be a mystery. It all depends, I guess, how the next years look. I mean, I'm sure in the 80s, right, what they thought about the future, what 2020 was going to be like, looks a lot different. And I feel like we're going to kind of have the same experience where I'm thinking 2050, some crazy breakthrough is going to happen, and we'll be able to have a advancement in technology that just changes the game. But it might just be more of the same, or I guess a little bit worse the way it's kind of going right now. But we'll bounce back.
Have you heard of that Filipino inventor? I think his name was Carey, begins with an M, but he discovered the Aurus, I think it's pronounced. It's Aureus. And what it is he developed a film or solar panel, in essence, that collects UV light, not sunlight. And so the difference between collecting UV light is it could be a cloudy day and it's still collecting energy. So as long as there's sunlight, it's collecting energy. And he was given, I think, like the Dyson Award for like the greatest invention last year or something like that. But the convention center, I think, in Montreal is using that film. But even online, I haven't found, they always talk about the great scientific find and that it's being used in places, but they haven't really talked about how efficient it is and how well it's collecting energy. So I'd like to know about that. But when you talk about that sci-fi scientific stuff in the future, I'm really excited about that because, one of the big drawbacks with clean energy is with the solar panels is that you have to have a sunny day. Like, how about those people that are up in Canada that don't really have sunny days? Oh, I mean, how are they gonna collect energy when I think it's winter there most of the year? So if all you need is sunlight and this thing collects energy through UV, how well is it? How much energy is it actually collecting? Is what I would like. Nobody writes up on that. I've been like checking. Of course, the invention is relatively new. It's not old technology, so maybe they need more time. I guess 6 months is too early to.
It's a little more time.
But they've got it on the convention center in Montreal. So I've been saying to myself, I want to like call the place and say, hey, how much energy are you getting from those things out there? Like with an average janitor guy, I mean, somebody knows, and I would like to know.
For sure. I don't know if you heard, there's a place in New Mexico right now that I forget which company bought out this small town, but they're making it like the most futuristic city, with all the bells and whistles of latest technology, and they're trying to see how it works in just a small setting. And I mean, it's still under construction, and well, I don't know if they'll ever open it to the public, but that's what I heard from another guest that stopped by. That was interesting.
Are they trying to run it with renewable energy, or are they trying to just use what energy they have and just make it high tech?
I think a part of it is sustainability. So it's like that mixture of like top of the line technology with the sustainability part. Because I think they're thinking about the future too, and how we're in a hole and we're trying to dig ourselves out. So it's gonna take effort from everybody to make that happen. Yeah.
We got to keep on thinking. I'm not in the school of thought that thinks that the world's going to end in 20 or 12 years. Because they've been saying that since I was a kid, that the world was going to end, and I keep on living through whenever that's supposed to end. So it gets to be the boy cried wolf too many times. So I'm very skeptical when people say the world's going to end. But I am also sensible, and although I am a economics person and I love business, I think there needs to be a different category. There needs to be the business person that loves the environment, which I never see that. I never see business environment for some reason. It's always, okay, if you're a business, then you need to be on this side, and if you're environment, you need to be on this side. Why can't we have a business environment group? Because I think that's what we're missing. We're missing that interaction with the people that could actually make some changes. If you got the business of sustainability, then we could probably change the world, instead of just thinking that these people are so bad and those people are so bad. There needs to be more unity to create something great. It's just like the Filipinos. It always comes back to me because of the history. But I always tell people, the only reason the Filipinos fell, even without the best technology, if all those people in the Philippines were united, they would have kicked the Spanish people's butts. Yeah. There's no way that Spain would have won. No, when Legazpi attacked Manila, he had Visayans with him. It wasn't just the Spanish. So he had people from Cebu with him attacking Manila. So it wasn't just the Spanish that were there.
Yeah.
So,
I know that.
I hate to say it, but that's how it was. And so you see it also with your cowboy and Indian movies here. All it takes is you pit one group up against the other, and I think from what I read, the Spanish did that in Mexico too. They put one tribe up against the other, and that's how they were able to win. But if it wasn't for that, they would have never. They didn't have enough manpower to hold down the Philippines, and they would have never been able to do fighting. But it is what it is, and I tend to believe this. I tend to believe that the Filipinos had it so great for so long that we probably pissed God off somewhere down the line, and we needed to be put on our butts for a little while so that we could rise up stronger. So I like to think of it, okay, we got our butts kicked for a little while, but what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? So, I see a great, bright future for the Philippines, and learning our history and knowing who we are, the great people that we are, is part of that revival and that realization that we can do what we did with little dugout boats a long time ago. We could sail across the world before anyone else did.
That's dope. That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
For sure.
You gotta be positive, man. I mean, some bad things happen. You don't want to dwell on all the negativity. You want to say, we did some kick butt things in the past. We were first to do this. Like, I always say in my blog, I say, hey, camotes, sweet potato came from I think it was Peru. It wasn't Peru, it was Venezuela or Colombia, but one of those countries in South America. Excuse me. So how did it get to Luzon a long time ago before the Spanish came? Well, somebody made it in those little outrigger boats, banca. Someone made it from all those little islands all the way to Easter Island, all the way into South America, and brought it back. And so that's one of the positive things I like to tell Filipinos, we have always gone out, but like someone from our past, our ancestors, they brought something back. And what are the Filipinos of today? What are we gonna bring back home? Because it's our job to bring something back. Like they brought the sweet potato, and we brought other things, but we need to bring something back home. I think that the Philippines is gonna come up because its sons and daughters realize that it's paradise and that they're gonna do something. Somebody from the outside is gonna help bring the Philippines where it should be.
Can't wait to see.
Even though some people don't even want to call it Philippines, but that's the name right now, so that's what I'm saying. If I say, something else, you're gonna say, what are you talking about? Or I could say Luzon. For some people, that was the entirety of the Philippines, Luzon. So, but not for everyone, but for some people on the what is called the Philippines now, they knew the entirety of the Philippines as Luzon, not just the main island.
I gotcha. I mean, I always default to motherland. I always just call it my motherland,
Yeah. Well, yeah, isn't that a cool story? So I pick these things up from what I read. So, it's like, yeah, that's so cool. Sweet potatoes from South America, but it made it all the way to the Philippines. It's not as good as ube, but, it's pretty good. And so, but somebody brought that home. And so what I'm saying is, I'm here in the U.S. right now. I would love to be back home. I go home often, but I haven't since the pandemic. But I look at that, what our ancestors did. If we're going to help the motherland, then those of us that have left need to go back home and bring something home.
I hear you. Well, Arthur, I want to thank you again for stopping by the pod. It was great talking to you. Thank you for dropping your knowledge, as you always do, and sharing your story. Definitely appreciate it. And hopefully this will become of value to you and your family sometime down the road. Well, yes, sir. I want to thank all the folks out there for listening. If you caught it on Spotify or watched it on YouTube, appreciate your time as well. If you liked it, please like it. If you loved it, please subscribe and share. Check out, I got my copy here too. Just showing the folks out there that we out here supporting. Where can they pick up a copy, Arthur?
They can pick up a copy. Easiest is to go online, maharlicanchronicles.com. You can find me on Instagram at igorot.sky or at Maharlican Chronicles on Instagram. But Retail in the Philippines opens up within 3 weeks. And then we're going to have issue number 2 out this fall.
Sounds good. Sounds good. For all the folks out there, remember to reach out, reach forward. As always, much love. And we'll catch you guys next time on 34 Questions. Peace. All right. This is the credit scene. Any feedback for me? Anything that you particularly liked or disliked about the interview? Yeah,
I think we're comfortable with each other. We've done it before. Magically my voice isn't as bad as, I kept on talking, so my voice got better. So, I have no complaints with the way that you're running your show. I am very comfortable. I think as a host or interviewer, one of the things that you'll need is to make people comfortable. So although it's probably hard to get me uncomfortable because I'm that way, I can talk, I think you did a great job. I enjoyed talking to you, so that's important. I have no negative what you could do better. I think you actually improved from last time because you have your questions, you have your little spin wheel, you had some follow-up questions at the end that were normal, so you've sort of developed a